You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast. We're continuing on with our 50 Pirates 50 Days feature that's exclusively on SoundCloud and YouTube. And today we're very excited to be joined by Morris Letcher. Morris played wide receiver for the Pirates back in the early 90s. Morris, welcome into the show.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time. Looking forward to catching up. Your time at ECU was a time of transition as the program was moving from the Bill Lewis era, which was, of course, very successful, into the Steve Logan era. And talk a little bit about your path to ECU from out at Coffeyville Community College.
Well, I'm originally from Kansas City, Kansas. Didn't do too well with my book work in high school, so I had to take the junior college route where I played at Coffeyville for 2 seasons. I played as a true freshman. Fortunate enough in '90 to be a part of a national championship team at Coffeyville Community College, and completed my second year. Did pretty well, and I had a few scholarships waiting on me after playing on the national championship team and doing well. So I actually, East Carolina wasn't even on my radar, to be honest with you, but it worked out for me later on.
Like you said, you played on a very successful team there at Coffeyville, and the Pirates were coming off that 11-1 season in which they finished number 9 in the nation under Bill Lewis, and of course the very memorable Peach Bowl win over the NC State Wolfpack, where they rallied from down 17. And during that era, you had Steve Logan, who was the offensive coordinator, transitioning to becoming the head coach. And Coach Logan was very well known for his high-powered offenses and throwing the football around. So was that one of the things that really made ECU appealing to you?
Yeah, so I can give you a little story. So I was set to, me and another guy named Troy Dickey, was recruited out of Coffeyville Rest. So Troy Dickey, he passed about a year ago, and we were both slated to take a trip to Arizona University, which he ended up signing with Arizona. And man, I'll never forget, I was at home during Thanksgiving break, and I got a phone call from Steve Logan, and I kind of chuckled because I'm from the Midwest, and so everybody in South Carolina, North Carolina, they had this kind of slang, and so I thought it was funny just hear him talk at first. And man, he promised me. He said, "Man, I promise you, man, if you take a trip down here, I promise you'll sign with us." And so I knew 2 guys that went to. I knew one guy that went there personally, but I knew it was a guy before me named Deion Johnson. Deion had attended Coffeyville, but he left Coffeyville when I came to Coffeyville to go to East Carolina. And there was a guy named Tony Davis that was a linebacker on the national championship team. He was at East Carolina. So I called him up and asked him about it, man. And Coach Logan was, he was very adamant that he was a throwing coach. And so if you know anything about Coffeyville, we was a running team. I just happened to have success there. And I think by Deion leaving and Coach Logan being very convincing, man, it made me cancel my trip to Arizona, actually, and come visit ECU.
That's certainly very, very interesting. I did not know that backstory. I guess around the time you were playing for the Pirates, that was about my 5th, 6th grade year. So I followed it very closely, and I certainly knew you were coming out of Coffeyville, but did not recall, who all you were being recruited by. But that was something I was interested in finding out going into this interview. Taking a look at it. Go ahead.
I would say this. My mother, a couple more schools that I recruited by was KU University, which is about 30 miles from Kansas City, and then Oklahoma State. My mother didn't want me to go to KU because it was too close to home. Oklahoma State, it was too boring for me back then. So she was like, "Man, you went a long way away. So, which, you know, she didn't get to see me play that much except for on TV, and I think she came to 2 of my college games. So, you know, but I enjoyed every minute of it. Wish I could go back and do it over.
Oh, no doubt. Some fond memories of those times for sure, and that's what I remember more. So, like you were saying, as far as Coach Logan, I guess he had been down in the South at various coaching stops prior to ECU. He had been at Mississippi State and so forth, but he actually had roots out to Oklahoma. He had been on the staff there at Oklahoma State, and he was a Tulsa graduate. So I guess the South had worn off on him some of that accent, but yeah. Coach Logan, as we'll talk more later on, he's certainly. In addition to being a tremendous offensive mind, was a solid head coach for sure, especially later on after you left, and where he got the program to, and then Coach Logan certainly had a unique personality, very very much unlike a lot of football coaches.
Yeah, man, he actually, looking back, you know, he was a real good man, just in general, you know, to me anyway. And, you know, it was just, you know, I think that time just went so quick for me, being that I didn't stay for 4 years. I came from junior college, and then I ended up leaving right after, you know, to go to trial, you know, professionally, you know, for me. So, but he was a real good dude, man. I'm just, it was an honor to, you know, to play at East Carolina, honestly.
So transitioning to your time as a Pirate, you were coming in. Like I said, we had an awful lot leaving from that 91 team, and then you had a quarterback transition going from Jeff Blake to Michael Anderson, a very tall quarterback and a guy that had an awful lot of potential. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but during that 1992 season, talk a little bit about your time during that year, and then also the 1993 season, because unfortunately your years, and you had some nice numbers, but you had a little bit of an unsettled situation with quarterback due to some inconsistent play. But then more than that, just you had Marcus Crandall get injured and some things that had to make it somewhat challenging as a wide receiver. So Morris, let's talk about that 1992 season. You're coming in your junior year, first year with the Pirates. And, of course, you had a quarterback transition taking place. You had Jeff Blake, who had moved on to the professional ranks. And then you had Michael Anderson, a very talented guy, 6'4", very big quarterback, and very talented, like I said, but he was still trying to learn the position in terms of playing it, at the Division I level. So talk a little bit about that season and what the 92 Pirates were like.
Well, it was a new experience for me. I came from, like I said, a traditional pro style offense and to a run and shoot offense, and so there was a lot more opportunity to catch balls. There was a lot more opportunity to you had to learn a lot more with this system, and so I was grateful, man, to be able to come in, you know, in January and learn the system with East Carolina. It was cool with Mike Anderson, man. He was a different kind of quarterback, man. He was like you said, a big, tall. He wasn't gonna run it hardly, but he threw a nice ball, and I had the opportunity to actually go to some of Jeff's pro days at East Carolina, so I actually got to see the type of ball that he threw, which he threw a pretty deep bomb. I can tell you that, you know. So I mean, it was just cool overall, man. It was an experience. I got to come on the East Coast, new system, and just learned a lot of things that Coach Logan was trying to teach me coming to a run and shoot offense, actually.
Like you would expect with a quarterback transition, some of the talent that the Pirates had lost, especially on the defensive side of the ball as well. Kind of up and down season, finished 5-6, I guess it was. And early on, though, you had some big wins over the likes of Virginia Tech and South Carolina.
Yeah, we did, man. We, that's one of the backdrops about having junior college players and a new quarterback, man. You try to gel as best you can with the time that you have. And I guess it helps since I was a little mature. I do remember coming in and, guys were supposed to be slated for positions already. And, I can thank, several people for, the time they took out to help teach me. Pete, there's a guy named Pete Zophi there, man. He wasn't as talented as I was, but he knew how to read certain defenses and sit in zones and things like that, man. It helped me out, in my career. In my first year coming to East Carolina, I will say that.
Yeah, Pete Zophi, that's what we look forward to hopefully catching up with him as well. And that's what Pete reminds the folks that remember Hunter Gallimore from the 91 season. Pete was very much like that in terms of catching a decent number of balls, especially underneath the coverage, and making some things happen that way.
Yeah. It was fun times, man. Like I said, and that was the great thing about our offense, man. We could, it was plenty of opportunity for people to, catch and expose different offenses. Now, I will say this though. I know the defensive guys probably get mad at me. We had some good dudes, but man, they just couldn't gel to save our life. That was just one of the things that we used to talk about coming from a game and stuff. But, we might score 20, 30 points, and which is good for an average game. But when the opposition is scoring 35 or 40, we used to always, joke about stuff like that, man. So, yeah, it is what it is, man. Looking back, man, just like I said, I can't reiterate enough, man. It was a joy and a pleasure to play there.
Like you said, and we'll get to this here in a few minutes, but just talking about the way the offense and defense have to pair up. If you'd have taken the offense from that 1992 season and taken it with some of the improved defense that we played in 1993, you'd have had a pretty good football team.
Yeah, you would have had a hell of a team, man. The funny thing about Facebook and Instagram is, you get to see guys and hear guys that played after you and before you. And it was a 90. I'm trying to think about a 93, 94 team, man. They swear up and down they were the best defensive team that ever come through ECU with the Hart boys and some of those, Mitch Galloway, which they played offense, but that Hart, E.J. Gunthrop, and those guys like that, man. So I hear they were pretty good. I didn't too much keep up because I had other things going on in my life, man, at that time. So, but I'm sure it would have been beneficial to us. I can guarantee you that in '92.
But that '92 season, like you said, when the Pirates threw it around a good bit, I remember. I think the season opener that year was against Syracuse, and the Steve Logan era opened with the Pirates. And, of course, we were playing from behind in this game. We were down 21-0, if I'm not mistaken. But we threw it more than 70 times in Steve Logan's first ball game, kind of setting the tone for that season. But later on, Coach Logan would certainly establish more of a running game, and the Pirates became much more balanced as the years wore on. But that year you caught 47 balls, more than 550 yards, and 5 touchdowns. But then you also played a very prominent role in the return game, particularly punt returns.
Yeah, that was, man, just to go back to the first game, that was my first Division I game actually on TV. And so, I had, of course, all of Kansas City was watching in my family because, back then you didn't have people from Kansas City, Kansas especially, being on TV. And, I'll never forget, man, we actually kicked off to to Syracuse to a guy named Quadri Ishmael. And Marlon Harrison were back there, believe it or not. Marvin Harrison, which had a long stint in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts. And, man, they ran the first kickoff back. So, it was crazy. It was, we was all excited. ECU was pumping as much as they could back then, and you kick off and they run a touchdown back. But, man, once again, back to the throwing and stuff, man, it was a beautiful sight, when you played in offense because you saw the potential even back then. But as I know now, it's much about gelling, and me being a first-year receiver, Mike being a first-year quarterback, you might have Clayton Driver that was he had been there a couple of years, but, he didn't play as much as – well, he did play a lot, but, there was just different variables that come in. Luke, I guess his name was Hunter. He was a tight end.
Luke Fisher.
Luke Fisher, there we go, yeah. And then it was Carlos Crumpers coming out. You understand what I'm saying? So, we would all, show signs of greatness and goodness, and then sometimes you'd be like, yep, those are freshmen and transfers for you. You know what I'm saying? So it was a mixture of season of that, and I think our record reflected that.
Like you were saying, as far as Quadri Ismail, that's what longtime college football fans will, of course, remember the Rocket Ishmael that played at Notre Dame and was such a tremendous return man. That's why I remember they called his brother Quadri the Missile.
Yes, sir. I remember that too, man. Actually, Rocket was one of my – Rocket and Desmond Howard, probably two of my favorite players back in the day. And, so I kind of looked up to them guys. And, I wasn't starstruck anyway when I met Quadri, but, it was a challenge, man. I had the little man syndrome back then. I always was trying to prove something because, even guys I grew up with, they never thought that I would even get the opportunity to play Division I football, let alone get an opportunity to try out. And so, like I said, it was just fun for me back then, man, and just reminiscing, man, just brings all types of joy to my heart,
Something else that really stands out about that opening game against Syracuse in 1992, as I recall, like I said, the Pirates were down 21-0. We scored, had some momentum, and then Steve Logan did what he did, as it turned out, quite a bit through his 11-year tenure at ECU, and that was a surprise onside kick. And the Pirates had some momentum, and it seemed as though we may get back in that ball game, and we ended up losing 42-21.
Yeah, it was. I remember doing that. He had to do something, because I think the air was out of us at that time. Syracuse was a bigger Division I school, and like I said, we were a new team, and so we had to figure out something to get us back in the game. I don't know if it was my junior year or senior year, but I remember, catching. I know I caught at least one touchdown that game, and one was a possible. They didn't have instant replay back then, so. But I got credit for it. So, I had pretty good games against Syracuse back then. Of course, they didn't know too much about me, so they would, people would kick to me as far as punt return go until they found out that this is something that I was pretty good at and I liked at the time.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to touch on more here in just a couple minutes as far as punt returning and how that's such a special skill. And people don't realize how truly hard that is. But something I wanted to talk about, and you alluded to it in that 1993 game, Pirates starting the year against Syracuse again on national TV. It's a Thursday night game this time around, and that was Marcus Crandall's debut, and he had a heck of a debut, and he had already hooked up with you on a post route, and then he had the one that you were talking about, I believe it was in the right front corner of the end zone where unfortunately, there was no replay. It may have been overturned, but I just remember Mike Patrick on ESPN, and people who've watched ESPN down through the years certainly remember Mike Patrick from calling, whether it's NFL or college baseball, what have you. And but Mike Patrick, that's what he got so excited when he caught that, and just I can still hear that call like it was yesterday.
Yeah, well, me too. And I'm gonna have to throw Marcus under the bus on this one because first of all, if he would have threw the ball far enough, I would have caught it over my head. So then, second of all, I was actually opening the end zone, but I was kind of backing up, trying to tippy toe and keep myself inside the end zone. So, man, once again, man, I had the streak of freshman quarterbacks, man. And so. We just had to work together, but Marcus is another good quarterback for ECU, and of course, me being able to see him my last year, not even the whole season because I ended up getting hurt and coming back late. But man, he was a hell of an athlete, man, as his stats show in East Carolina and the Canadian Football League.
No doubt about it. Marcus Crandall, like you said, led the Pirates to one of the program's most successful 3-year runs from 94 to 96, where we had those back-to-back bowl games in 94 and 95 in the Liberty Bowl, and then also 96 was an 8-3 team, which was unfortunately left out of a bowl, which was just a travesty with the type of team that was. It was probably as good as any of the three, but that's something you don't have to worry about nowadays where you have 40-plus bowl games.
Yeah, that's a real blessing, man. I actually enjoy seeing those kids get the opportunity to play in bowl games, man, and just get one more game if nothing else. It makes for an extra game, and then for you to reminisce about, and then it gives kids might get that extra opportunity to get looked at if they are fortunate enough to get an opportunity to go play professional somewhere.
Now, I believe during your years, your position coach was Dale Steele. Is that correct?
Man, Dale Steele. Yes, he was. You probably wonder why I'm laughing. He was Dale was a screamer, man, believe it or not, in our classes, on our film study. We would, when I mentioned earlier about how Pete Zolfi, man, would do, certain things right, and, it'd be on film, and it'll be my turn, and we'd get to film, and we're trying to, I can't think of a play name, but it was kind of like I was in a slot position, and I would go about full speed after the ball snapped to the center and wheel back out. And sometimes you were supposed to just sit in the hole based on the defense. And that was part of my learning curve, man. And, man, Steele would be going off and yelling in our film study, and, sometimes we get on his nerves and, might laugh and things like that. But, I get it now because, hell, I'm 20 years in coaching middle school for 20 years, so it's like deja vu all over again for me. So, but he was a good dude, man, too.
Kind of getting back to Marcus Crandall's injury, he went down in that, I guess it was game 2 of that year, either game 2 or game 3 against UCF, a game the Pirates won rather comfortably, but obviously a very costly loss with Crandall going down, and then you had Chris Hester come in. He was a talented quarterback, but then he got hurt, and then Perez Madison was, as we actually talked to Perez Madison on this feature as well, and Perez said he had no anticipation of playing that early on in his career, and he was pretty much thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, he was, man, but, the one thing is, man, I didn't play a lot with Perez because I ended up getting hurt against Louisiana Tech that year. And so I ended up sitting out a few games. But, I practiced with Perez. Hell, I can't even remember too many. I think I might have caught one touchdown from Perez when he played back then. So, man, it was just it's like a blur now between once I got hurt until me coming back playing a little bit and then getting an opportunity to go as a free agent, So, but I remember Perez. I wonder what he's doing now, in life,
Yeah, Perez. You'll definitely have to check that out. Check that interview out. Excuse me. And it was good in conversation with Perez. He actually had the opportunity, went over and played in Germany and France and some other places abroad, and he's actually now doing something where he's over in France and helps popularize the game in terms of the NFL and kind of translating some things on game day and so forth. So we talk about that in that interview with Perez. But before we move on and talk about your time after ECU, let's talk a little bit about that skill of returning punts and everything that goes into that. And because that's something not only, first of all, you have to catch the football so you're not losing yardage there, but then you have to have that knack and make the first one miss and then make something happen.
Well, I will have to tell you, man, I never did punt return in high school. I was scared to do it, actually. I was like, man, I don't want to, stand there and wait on all these guys to come down. What if they hit me and things like that? And so just going back to my time at Coffeyville, man, I was a second team. No, I was just a kickoff returner. And I had a coach named Dickie Rose, he's actually still coaching at Coffeyville. And my freshman year, I didn't have to worry about it because we had a pretty good punt returner named Prentice Rome. But he was a sophomore, so he ended up leaving. So I'll never forget, man, after we played in the national championship game, man, Dickie Rose came to me. He said, you know you're going to be my punt returner. I was like, man, I'm not even going to be your punt returner, man. That's for somebody else. And so he's like, no, I got you, bud. You know, I got you. I'll teach you, you know, what you can do and this and that. And, man, so, you know, we worked all season, worked in the summertime. And I'll never forget, man, my first punt return, we played Northeastern Oklahoma University in the community college in the border battle. That was we called them NEO, and so we played them. And, man, my first punt return, man, I ran back for a touchdown. And I was hooked ever since then. And so, you know, he would always tell me, man, that's going to get you further than playing receiver. Because one thing he realizes that receivers, they come a dime a dozen. But to find a receiver that's a good punt returner with an offensive mindset, they're very rare. And so ever since then, man, he taught me how to do it. He would drill into me, you know, feet on the 10-yard line. Anything over your head, you let it go, and anything in front of you, you catch it. And so that was my mentality. That's still my mentality as I coach. And, you know, even with my son playing, he's a punt returner at a Division II school, and he went in right away and ended up doing punt return for them as a true freshman, you know. So, you know, man, it was just a great opportunity, man. And I'm glad I didn't shy away from the challenge at the time because it actually opened up doors for me.
Speaking of opening up doors, after you left ECU following the 93 season, tell Pirate Nation what you had the opportunity to do as far as potentially playing professionally, and then bring us up to date to the present.
Well, once I played at East Carolina, I'm gonna say I played 6 games my senior year. Ended up tearing my MCL on a punt return or kickoff return, and so I sat out. I think the 3 games. I didn't need surgery. I sat out 3 or 4 games and then ended up coming back. But I really wasn't full go. At that time, I was contacted by a few agents, and so I had a 19-year-old daughter I thought I'd try to take care of, and I decided to explore my opportunities to go professional. Unfortunately, I wasn't drafted, but I did get the opportunity to go as a free agent with the Miami Dolphins. And, you know, man, I wasn't mentally ready at that time. I'm going to be honest with you. I ended up going to camp in 94 and 94 and 95. Never made the roster, never played in any games, but it was an experience that if I could go back, I would go back and change it just so my son could see some more stuff that I did in professional. But other than that, man, you know, I don't regret it. Thankful I got the opportunity, and thankful for them taking a chance on me. You know, there's just so much that goes into professional football that people would never understand. And, you know, back then, it seems like yesterday, but, you know, you could practice all day, study film all day, and there's nothing you could do about it. Now they got so many guidelines where they can't keep you on the field for so long and study for so long that I think it's for the benefit of players going forward. But I appreciate the opportunity. I had a great opportunity, a great experience that some guys never got the opportunity to do. So.
Absolutely. That certainly had to be a dream come true, just having the opportunity to be with the Dolphins, albeit for a short period of time. So bring Pirate Nation up to the present. What are you up to now, and what do you have going on?
So right now, for the past 21 years, I've coached middle school sports in Kansas City, Kansas. I've coached high school basketball. Won a couple state basketball championships as a lead assistant. My full-time job, I'm assistant chief with the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department. And I have a son, as I mentioned, that plays at Washburn University. He's a sophomore at Washburn, and he's, you know, I go watch him every week from, September to November. Last year he was unfortunately broke his hand, and so he got a redshirt year. And so I get 3 more years, hopefully, if he stay healthy to watch him. And so that's really what me and my wife do, outside of working at this time.
So over the last few years, obviously with East Carolina, we had decent exposure prior to joining the American Athletic Conference, but it's grown even more over the last 5-6 seasons. So talk about being halfway across the country and what it means to you as an alum to have the opportunity to watch the Pirates on one of the ESPN platforms or like the CBS Sports Network.
Well, it's always a honor to tell people, you went to East Carolina. And then, being a firefighter, a lot of times you're in the station and East Carolina come on and they're like, man, that's where you went, right? The Pirates, right? And one of the funny things is, man, that one of the schools I coach up here, we're called the Piper Pirates. And we're actually purple and white also. So that kind of brings it back to full circle of how my experience at East Carolina playing there and then being up here. And so every time we see them, man, it puts a little excitement as in, hey, that's where I used to go. And I'm proud. And actually, about a year ago, man, I went back online and I graduated. I left school in '94 to, like I said, to go play football, and I needed some hours for my criminal justice degree. And I was fortunate to just move up the ranks in the fire department. I didn't think I needed a degree, and when I made assistant chief, man, I decided to go back. And so I was actually in East Carolina in May 5th last year, graduation. I actually walked and everything, and so it was kind of cool. And so not only do I get the memory now of playing there every time I see East Carolina, but now it's an added something that you can't take of, I'm a graduate and I'm not from East Carolina. So yeah, I get the little butterflies in my stomach when I hear it and see it now.
That's a cool story. That's awesome that you came back to ECU and finished up that degree. And I remember seeing that, like you said, on Facebook, because a friend of mine, Dave Batts, I believe he may have been a former teammate of yours. If not, he was right around that time and didn't miss you by much. But I know Dave, he has certainly done a lot behind the scenes advocating for former athletes and so forth in terms of some of the recognitions that you guys and your former teammates should be getting.
Yeah, man, I got to give much props to Dave, man. Dave came up to Kansas City for a conference, man, and I took him out for lunch, and I got to talking about my degree, man, and he really worked. He sent me some things, man, and next thing you know, I was walking across the stage. So he knows I got much love for Dave. The only thing he doesn't understand the difference between good barbecue and okay barbecue. So that's my little chug of Dave, man. I took him out for barbecue up here, and he of course he likes that North Carolina vinegar based barbecue, and but I had to understand, and I give him that since he helped me get my degree back.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, Morris, we certainly appreciate your time, and we hope to catch up with you down the road. And are you on social media at all in addition to Facebook?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and that's about it. Snapchat. I'm on our fire department. I run that, but that's about it for me as far as social media. So
no Twitter.
Well, I do have a Twitter. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm tripping. I am on Twitter. I forgot. I don't get on it as much. Since I'm our PIO with the Kansas Fire Department, I go back and forth between my drive tweets and my tweets. So I am on Twitter under Morris Letcher, at Morris Letcher, MORRISLET.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that sounds kind of like my dad. He has a Twitter account I created for him, and he very seldomly uses it. That's for sure. I told him, I said, I have to get you coached up because you can get a hold of some information on Twitter that you can't otherwise, or at least not as fast.
Well, I'll tell you what. You send me that picture of me. I'm gonna post it on Twitter when we get out the phone, and about the sports objective and the great conversation I had and reminiscing. And I appreciate you actually calling me, man, to talk to me about it.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time, and like I said, we're catching up with former Pirates and then maybe even also a few coaches from a variety of eras, and hopefully you'll be able to check out some of those interviews and pass the word along to your teammates, any that you stay in touch with, and we certainly wish you and your family all the best out there in Kansas City, and we look forward to catching up down the road. Pirate Nation, that is Morris Letcher from the 1992-1993 East Carolina football program.
Thank you. Have a good day, my man.
All right. Thanks so much.
As I used to say, you can paint it purple.
Yeah, and then like Jeff Charles has been saying, I guess, for 30-plus years now, you can paint this one purple.
You can paint it purple, baby. All right, you take care.
All right, something else I wanted to ask you about off the air, and Dave will cut this out, but I remember, of course, back there in the late 80s, early 90s, Miami was notorious for taking off their helmet and stuff after scoring a touchdown or making a big play. Do you remember, I'm trying to remember if it was 92 or 93, but you scored a touchdown and you took off your helmet?
Man, I can send you videos.
What did Lookin have to say about that?
Yeah, man, I can see, man. That's what I used to do, even at Coffeyville, man. That's what we fashion now for, man. When I went to college, I had the opportunity to play offense or defense, and if you knew anything about me, I was a showman before anything. So, man, that's what I did. I used to see Michael Irvin and all them do it, and that's what I want to do. I really wanted to go to Florida State because of Deion Sanders and them. So, but man, yeah, I remember like yesterday. I got plenty of my son. He laughs about that video when he sees it. Now he's like, "What you taking him off?" I'm like, man, back then we could do it, but that's the reason why you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yep, I remember, man. Yeah.
And then I remember one of those old blooper videos that you would see on VHS. I had one of those that had the Miami guy scoring and doing a front flip, and then so it got called back for a hold, whatever, blocking the back, and then the defender for Temple did a back flip. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. It's funny how things is, man. So I remember actually running a punt return back in South Carolina, man, and not knowing that it was a holding call, and I ran up to the bushes, and, man, the people were throwing stuff at me, man. I took my helmet off, and it was kind of crazy, man, and not knowing that it didn't even count. I said, but they'll never know it on video. It didn't count.
Yeah. Oh, I know that South Carolina game, what you're talking about. I remember how much it rained that night, and underneath the stadium, it was flooded so badly, and then. Well, they had actually kicked the field goal on third down. We blocked it, and then they recovered it, and then so they get to kick it again, and then fortunately they hooked it wide left, and of course the other 3,000 Pirates or so in attendance, we just went nuts.
Yeah, man. Those were the days, man. So, I wish I could go back and visit some of them, but that's one thing that time don't wait on is nobody, so, yeah.
Now, what year is your son at Washburn?
He will be a sophomore in the field and a junior in the classroom. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about 2 months ago, man, there was a shooting up here at this college, and his best friend got killed. His best friend got killed, and then a guy named Corey Ballantyne that got drafted to the Giants got shot in the butt. So.
Now that you say that, it seems like I remember you putting something on social media about it.
Yeah. So, he's been doing good, man. It was just a random act of ignorance, man, and gun violence, man, that seems to plague our community. And but he's doing well, man. He's a 5'8", 170-pound kid that didn't get recruited well, but man, he's went from a $3,000 scholarship his freshman year to playing his freshman year to basically being on the full ride. So I'm
That's awesome.
very, very proud of him, man. So we're actually going to New York here in a couple of weeks to see Corey actually at training camp.
Okay.
I just thought I'd try to expose him and he can see his friend too. maybe try to show him how tough it is to get there. Of course, he believes me, but every kid that plays football their dream is to try to go professional. So who am I to try to not stop him? I just want to encourage him, make sure he has his ducks in a row better than I did. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, down the road sometime, whether it's around his games or after his career is done, if you ever make it to an East Carolina game, if you make it out here to Greenville, then let us know, and love to meet up with you.
Oh, no question about that, man. I will do that most definitely. I appreciate it. All right.
All right, and take care, and we look forward to talking to you down the road. Have a good summer.
Thanks, man. You too.
All right. Bye. All right, bye-bye.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!